Hi everybody, welcome back to part 14 of our story, Cruising as a Lifestyle. First I'd like to thank all of you though for your comments and thumbs up. We'd love to hear from you, keep it up. In the last episode, part 13 of Cruising as a Lifestyle, a friend of ours had just given us his used sails, so we had a new set of sails for Emerald Steel, and we were getting ready to leave on our maiden voyage to Hawaii.
But we still had to first sell our pickup truck, which we was able to sell for $5,000. It doesn't sound much like today, but it was almost 30 years ago. It was a pretty good price. So with that money, we went and bought a chain for our anchor. So we ended up a total of 400 feet. And we bought a 75-pound CQR as our storm and a main anchor. So as an anchor department, we had a 75-pound CQR, 45-pound CQR, and a 75-pound fisherman.
That was our insurance policy pretty much.
Yes. We also bought some shackles, a couple of bronze turnbuckles, and odds and ends. So we had some spare parts just in case if something should break. So when we left San Diego, we decided to stop in Ensenada, Mexico, which is about 75 miles south from San Diego, to haul out and put a final coat of bottom paint on it before we embark on the ocean passage. As we pull into Ensenada Harbor, we spotted our good old friend, Bob Carr. Now, Bob Carr was truly a museum type of guy, and I think it's worth to say a few words about him. We met him about 2 years earlier in San Diego. He was originally from Nova Scotia. He was already old man then, about 76 years old, but he was a one-of-kind guy. He built his spray. He actually went to trouble to cut down the trees and get all
his own lumber. But
did everything himself, including forge the fittings. Once I asked him, "Hey Bob, do you have any electric on your boat?" He says, "Yes, I have a flashlight."
He was a very nice man.
He had no plumbing, no electric, nothing. Very, very rough build. He had a stone grinder for grinding his flour, so he was doing everything very old-fashioned way. Anyway, he was sitting on top of his cabin, hand sewing his new mainsail, which was a 16-ounce canvas, if you can imagine, 600 square feet. Now, that kind of job is hell of a work for anybody, much less for an old man. He taught us a lot of things like how to sail our boat without any steering gear, like a wind vane or autopilot. He taught us a lot of things like splicing the ropes and just
serving the rigging and all kind of baggy wrinkles.
Yeah, he showed us a lot of things what we learned from him.
He was kind of like Jules' mentor, actually. Bob Carr's boat, which was named Sirius, was copied from the plans in the book Sailing Alone Around the World. He was one of the nicest people we've ever met, I think. He was very kind and patient. He always was willing to help, and he's one of the most satisfied people we've ever met in our life.
And one thing which I learned from him very much is when he told me, "Boy, too strong never broke." That was his idea about having big anchors and the chains, because he knew through many years of sailing how important a good anchor gear is.
If you guys think we live a simple lifestyle, he was the original simple liver.
he could teach us a few things.
Yeah.
We haul out our boat in Ensenada. Here's the Emerald Steel right before departing Ensenadas for Hawaii.
And you can see from those two pictures that we didn't even really have enough money to buy sail covers. We were using an old blue tarp to cover our sails.
There was a modern sailboat next to us. A guy knew we were going to Hawaii. So after we hauled out and we went anchor back on the bay, we were supposed to get together with the Bob Carr that evening again. But that guy early in the afternoon stopped by our boat and he says, "You know guys, you're going to Hawaii. I just got my weather fixed. You can't wait. Right now is the best time. You're going to have a perfect winds all the way to Hawaii. You should not wait a minute. You should just go right now." So we, as a novices we were, we took his word for it. We lifted the anchor. As I went going by the Bob Carr's boat, I yelled, "Bob, sorry about this evening. We will have to cancel because we just got a report from the man then the weather is just perfect for Hawaii. He looked at us, and his last words was to us, did he give you any guarantees?
And good luck.
When we left Ensenada's harbor by the two islands called Todos Santos, then we lost all the wind, and for the next 3 days we were bopping there, waiting for wind to come.
Saying, I wish we would have stayed and had dinner with our good friend Bob Carr instead.
How many times we said it, did he give you any guarantees?
Right.
So that's how it goes for the weather reports and all the modern electronics through our years. Since then, we learned that many times reports
Right.
did not pass to.
Sometimes they do, and
Yeah.
sometimes they don't.
They didn't come to pass the way they were foretelling.
Right.
Now we were actually on our maiden voyage.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, when the trade winds came, they were light, maybe at 10 knots. They came from a northeast. We made a nice sailing on a beam, a little bit aft of the beam. We had a really pleasant sail, so it was easy for Susan to cook, and not much
At
of
the
a
beginning.
not much of problems. We were not going very fast due to the fact that our mainsail was not a full-size mainsail, it was like a one with a reef in, and pretty much with what we had, we were doing okay, but not the best. Anyway, about 1,000 miles into a trip, which was about halfway point, wind turned more eastwardly, so we were running straight downwind towards Hawaii. Every day weather was getting warmer and warmer, so we really got into a sailing and really enjoyed the trip.
Once we started sailing dead downwind, the boat would roll as boats do when they're going downwind, and cooking became quite a bit of a challenge. It was definitely a learning experience for us.
But I cannot say there was a single night that we went without a good meal. So
I tried.
on my part, I cannot complain. There is one thing which we made really a policy, was especially once we start getting closer to Hawaii and we will start encountering a lot of squalls. Every evening we put the reef into a mainsail, and in the morning we took the reef out, because we were just didn't want to have any kind of surprises while we were sailing, especially going downwind without any kind of weather vane or any kind of helping steering, strictly on self-steering by sails. We didn't want to take a chance of accidental jibe.
Right, in our boat, you don't want to jibe it accidentally.
One night I was standing on the watch, Susan was downstairs sleeping, and as I was sitting in the cockpit looking at the stars, I was reflecting to change in my life from building houses and try to be a businessman into a sailor. When we left San Diego, we had $1,700 to our name. That was all. All our earthly possessions was with us on the boat,
And a big dream.
which mainly consists of the tools. And that's how we left for Hawaii. So much for this segment, and next video we will tell you how we end up into Hawaii and what was our other plans, because when we left San Diego we didn't have any plans whatsoever except to make it to Hawaii.
Thanks for stopping by, guys.
Bye-bye.